was Friday afternoon, and I was just on my way out the door when I heard the phone ring. I ran back in, grabbed up the receiver, and just as I got it to my ear, I heard what unmistakably was two gunshots go off, one right after the other. It was so loud that I jerked the phone away from my head. As I put it back, I could hear a voice screaming at the top of his lungs. "Bro, you gotta help me right now. You gotta get out of the house, go straight to FedEx. There's a package there in your name. I'll give you the tracking number now. Pick it up, bring it home, and count the contents. There has to be every dollar of $50,000 in there, or I'm gonna start executing every single one of the hostages I have held at this beauty salon." Now that is not the type of call you want to get when you're on your way out the door to your very first year law school exam. Good afternoon, my name is Jim Tamagini, and welcome to my channel. It's called All Sides of the System. Now I recognize the voice on the other end of the phone as my friend Donnie. Donnie had gone to California 4 days prior to this. And the reason that he went was because Donnie was the biggest steroid distributor in the greater Boston area. I had known him for quite some time. To me, he was a friend, he was my training partner, and he was a business partner. Donnie had different connections throughout the world for gear. And this particular one he was dealing with was in California. And the guy made him a tremendous offer on a shitload of parabolin, which was a French steroid, very hard to get at the time. It was such a good price that Donnie sent him $40,000 in cash up front. The problem was Donnie never got one vial of parabolin. And Donnie was not the kind of guy that was going to let something like that slide. Originally, he had asked me to go with him to retrieve the money that he had sent. I told him, "Bro, I can't. Next week is my first year law exams. It's the most important year of exams, the most important exams, and they start next week." He said he didn't mind. And I know he did a little bit, but he made me promise that I would stay back here and do whatever I could if need be. And then he said it was better off because what he did is he did a little research. He went to the North End in Boston and he hired this leg breaker, a debt collector, a guy who worked oftentimes for the Patriarca crime family or the Angiulo crime family. And he had a reputation that preceded himself. If you owed money, you best pay this guy or suffer the consequences. So he paid the guy to go with him. They went out to California. And the only lead Donnie had on the money was that his source had a father, a big fat Greek guy who owned a beauty salon in Beverly Hills. I don't know if he knew the name of it, but he went out there and apparently he found the beauty salon. And that's when he called me and he told me that he had the big fat Greek owner of the salon in the back room. He had pistol whipped the shit out of him and the leg breaker. They had duct taped his mouth. They had zip tied his hands and his ankles. They did the same to all the beauticians who were working there. Zip tied, duct taped, had him sitting on the floor in the back room up against the wall. They beat the fat Greek store owner so badly that he called his son and begged him to come down the shop. When the kid came down the shop, Donnie met him for the first time. He roughed him up apparently and made him promise to get the $40,000 that he owed him on ripping him off of the parabolin and an extra 10 for his trouble to fly out there and to pay the debt collector. The kid who was a source left and purportedly did that, sent the package in my name. Now Donnie wanted me to go pick it up at FedEx and come right back. I said to Donnie, I'm already late for my exam. This is bad timing. And my heart sunk to my stomach as I was saying it, because I gave him my word that I would do whatever I could to help. And I knew I had to do that. So I didn't waste any more time. I flew out the door, drove over the FedEx as fast as I could, shit my pants the whole time, because unmistakably I heard those gunshots go off. He never explained to me. He just ignored me when I asked him what that was. I didn't know what was going to be waiting for me at FedEx. Okay, if there was going to be cops coming out of the bushes, if there was going to be postal inspectors, God only knows what was waiting for me there. I got there, he had given me the tracking number, the package was in my name, I retrieved it without incident and flew back to my house. Now at the time, I was living at my parents' house because BC law didn't provide housing for the students. The undergraduate school did, the law school did not. Fortunately, my parents were both still at work and my 3 younger sisters were all in after-school activities. So here I am at the kitchen table with money strewn from one end to the other. Everything from $100 bills all the way down to the prick put $1 bills in the box. It took me what seemed like forever, but I finally counted the last dollar. There was exactly $50,000 in there. I called the number that Donnie called me back at and told him it was all there. He said, do not call me again, just wait for me to hear from you. And I got off the phone as fast as I could. I dreaded being late for that exam. I don't even know if I could recall all the things that I stuffed in my brain to prepare for the exam. But I took the money, put it back in the box, taped it up, ran out to the car, stuck it in the trunk, got on 128 South and flew towards Newton where Boston College Law School is situated. When I'm on 128, which is 95 South, I'm flying. I wasn't paying attention to how fast I was going. I didn't even care. At one point around Waltham, I passed an 18-wheeler on the left. And just as I got past the truck, the blue lights come on. I didn't see that there was a cruiser on the other side of the truck. I'm screwed now. That's all I could think of, is I'm done. I'm not making this exam. I don't know if they're gonna let me make it up. I'm here with $50,000 in the car. I don't know if the cop is gonna search it. The only saving grace I had is I noticed that the cop got greedy. The state trooper didn't just try and pull me over. He tried to pull 2 other cars over simultaneous with me. So there was my car, and behind me was an F-150. And behind that was another, I think it was a Toyota Camry. And then the trooper's cruiser. So I never took my car, which was an old Delta 88. I never took it out of gear. Left it in drive, kept my foot on the brake, my eyes peeled in the rearview mirror. I watched the trooper get out and go to the Camry and get license and registration from the driver. I watched him go to the F-150. And just when I could see that his attention was completely focused on the driver and getting that information, I hit the gas and got out of there like a bat out of hell. I knew that the next exit was 200 to 300 yards away. It wasn't too far. I flew to that exit. At the top of the ramp, I took a left, and on the left there was a Holiday Inn. I screwed into the back parking lot of the Holiday Inn, got out of the car, and ran into the side entrance. Now, I'm thinking this whole time, there's no way the trooper could have time to come after me. He would have had to give the paperwork back to the other drivers. But he did look, from my vantage point, pissed off. And he could have just chased me. I didn't know. But I was pretty sure I had a big enough head start that he wasn't going to catch me. So I didn't wait too long. I went back out to my car, and then I had to go back, not back on the highway, but I went the back roads to Newton, Massachusetts, where Boston College Law School was. I got there, I left the box with the money in the trunk, ran into the building, got to my exam room, and the female proctor had this grimace on her face like I was a jerk off for being late. I was trying my best to just put this all out of my mind and recall everything that I'd spent so long studying for. Wouldn't you know it, it was criminal law exam, naturally, right? So I spent the better part of 2 hours on the exam. When it was over, they called time, and if you were done or not, that was it. It was partially multiple choice and partially essays. When it was over, I hurried back out to my car, and on the way, I ran into a couple of friends of mine, and we started to bullshit, and the thought entered my mind, man, we were poor as fuck back then. How cool would it have been to show off the money, show them what I had? And then that was a fleeting thought. It left my brain as fast as it came in, because that would have been the biggest rat on yourself move in history. That would have been like putting it on the front page of the newspaper, because these kids from law school, they could not be trusted. I could only trust who I saw in the mirror, but these people really couldn't be trusted with a secret like that. So I forewent that. I just bullshitted with them for a minute, got back in the car. To be honest, I checked to make, like the box was gonna go somewhere. I checked, made sure it was still there, got back on the highway and hurried home because I wanted to beat anybody home that was on their way. I got there before my parents or my sisters. I took the box out to the garage and I hid it up in the rafters in the garage. I had another exam the next day. I think I had two that next day. So I stayed up in my room and I was studying for those exams, waiting for Donnie to call. He never called. Didn't call that night. Didn't call the next day. I had the exams, came home again. Didn't call until the following night. And he said it was okay to go by his apartment in Revere. I shit my pants even more driving over to his apartment at Northgate Shopping Center in the back in Revere than I did going to FedEx. I still didn't know what those gunshots were. I didn't know if he hurt somebody, if he killed somebody. I didn't know if anybody told on him, what happened to the leg breaker he took with him. He hadn't told me anything. He just told me to come by with the money. So I went by with the money. The coast was clear, it looked like to me. I made my way up the elevator to his apartment, knocked on the door. He opened it and welcomed me with open arms. I went in, gave him a hug, gave him the box. Now, Donnie was a cheap prick. And the funny thing is, he didn't count the money right then. It would have probably taken him too long anyway. But he did offer me $500 for my trouble. And I turned it down. I said, brother, you would have done the same thing to help me out. There's no need for that. We bullshitted for a little while. I told him I would call him the next day, which was the last day of my exams. And I'd meet him at the gym, we'd work out, we'd go out and celebrate afterwards. He got his money back and then some, and all was well as far as I knew. So I gave him another hug, I left, and planned on seeing him the next day at the gym. I called him before I went to the gym, he didn't answer. At the gym, he never showed up. Everybody was asking me where he was, because like I told you, he was the plug. He was the source of all the steroids in that gym, in that area. And everybody knew that if anyone knew where he was, it would be me. Now, no one knew that he went to California. No one knew he had gotten beaten for that money. And no one knew he got it back. Just me. I never said a word to anybody. So Donnie never showed up to work out that day, and that was not like him, especially when he had missed a week just about of the gym. He was neurotic, you know. He would have me call him every day just to go over the workout so he could mentally prepare for it. Never mind miss workouts. So I didn't see him that next day. I didn't see him the day after. I didn't see or talk to him on the phone or in person the next week or the week after that, or the next month, or the next month after that. And no matter how many people asked me where he was, I had no answer for them. From the time that I gave that box to Donnie at his apartment until this very second, I have never heard or spoken to Donnie again. I called one time, his phone was disconnected. Went by his apartment, he didn't live there anymore. Went by his mother's house, there was a for sale sign on the front lawn, and I was too nervous to look into it any more than that. I still didn't know what had gone on. Even when I went to the apartment and was asking him questions, he would just brush it off. He's like, it's better if you don't know. That's what he said. It's better if you don't know. If anybody asks you, you don't know. And so I didn't know. And what I did know is that he said, had the plug send the money in my name to FedEx and provided me with the tracking number, which I had and needed to get the package. So my brain's racing, like, what in the fuck happened to Donnie? Where is he? Where's the money? What's going on? What happened to the leg breaker he took with him? No one seemed to know where he was, and I didn't look into that too much. I wanted to stay away from that because no one knew I knew. We kept everything between us. The best I could come up with for what might have happened is that, listen, the fat Greek salon owner and his son weren't going to put up with this. I mean, if he didn't off them, okay? So the second he left, very likely they called the cops, got in touch with the FBI. The plug probably had Donnie's name and an address. He definitely had my information. I can only presume that he gave that to the authorities. And the authorities might have went and picked up Donnie after I dropped the box off. But never did I hear from anyone about this from that time until this very second, never. And that's the mystery of what happened to the box, the 50,000, and Donnie. Never again to be heard from. For all I know, he's in prison, he died, he's in an insane asylum where he might have belonged. Never heard from him again. Now, I hope that you like this story. And it definitely illustrates how my life was even back then, before I became an attorney, before I went into practice and worked at the district attorney's office and worked in private practice for myself, that my life was on two different paths. There was the path that involved criminality, the people from the gym, the drug dealing, the robberies, and all the shit that went on in the neighborhoods. I would always say, if there's anything you want in terms of drugs, in terms of firearms, in terms of anything, the place to find it is at the gym. It's an eclectic group there, and there was one of everybody. So you could always find whatever you needed at the gym. On the other path was everybody I knew in law school. I mean, I was lucky to get out of high school, never mind get into law school, never mind get into Boston College Law School. It was second to only Harvard at the time. Yet I did get in, and those paths were parallel at the time. But in the future, they would start to merge and they would cross one another. And that's when the fireworks really began. So I hope that you like the story. I hope you'll hit the like button. I hope you'll subscribe. And please leave some comments so that I know what you thought of the story. Because every day was a story, okay? There were stories when I was in law school, out of law school, in the gym, when I was an intern in the DA's office. The whole 10 years I was in the district attorney's office, the cops I worked with, the crimes that they committed and the crimes I committed with them. When I left and went into private practice, all the people I represented, from organized crime to disorganized crime to drug dealers, drug traffickers, home invaders, armored car robbers, bank robbers, you name it, I represented them all. Everyone had a story to tell. Some committed crimes on their own and I represented them. Sometimes I was involved in them. There was all my time in prison. Every single day was a story. Every single day I had to keep my identity and my prior occupation as a prosecutor hidden from the general population, or I would have got my throat slit. So as you can see, there's plenty of stories, and they come literally from all sides of the system. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. Be safe. I'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.